Alrighty. Apologies. I made a mistake yesterday of basically
Uh-huh.
screaming for a solid hour and not giving myself a break. So I woke up this morning with a little bit of a manlier voice.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that's
the
always fun. We're like,
worst. Oh, to
"Whoa,
wake up and just be like, in a
hey,
world.
in a world." Actually, what was it? I think, like, the first audition I had, yesterday early morning was, fuck, what was it? It was for a video game, and it was, like, really, really deep, and I was like, "Thank God I did it in the morning," because, I was
Yeah.
just like, "Yes, it's all right here." And it's like,
Yes.
"Ha and then by, the afternoon, I'm just like, "Hey, guys,
And I'm like,
like,
hey, Doc.
back I'm 16 again." Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, yeah. Transform and roll out. That's the audition I wish I could do right now, but nobody's auditioning for that. Yeah, I have you on my iPad because I'm not gonna pull it up on the screen. I looked up your website. Now, the reason that I wanted to do this, I don't know if you've seen any of my videos. I don't know if you've
I
gone on
have
the.
actually. Actually,
Did you?
I bought a microphone because of one of your videos.
Oh my gosh,
It
really?
was Yes, it was the AT875R. I was looking to buy a
Dude,
shotgun mic, and I saw your video, and I was like, "Wow, this thing sounds super super legit." So I bought
I
it.
know, right?
Mhm.
I have like two of them now. I actually bought an extra one. Because
Nice.
one is basically my on the road voiceover mic. And then the other one, I just wanted a backup, an extra one. Also, if I wanted to use like a stereo kind of thing going. So
I gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I found that, and it was it's one of the mics that I've gotten the most questions on. Uh, and it blew my mind because nobody was really talking about it. Like there was very few people, and so I got it because it was actually the first mic that I got to replace my Blue Spark. And because my Blue Spark, by the way, was my absolute favorite microphone. I've
Mm.
done the most of my best work was done on that microphone, and it just had the best sound to it, but
Mm.
it had a capsule problem. It started getting like
Oh.
this higher frequency noise. Anytime I'd get loud, it would just have this sharp ring to it. And so I was so bummed. And so I started getting that. So I bought that as kind of a cheap replacement, and I was blown away by it. And then I eventually moved up to the Sennheiser, which is good, but it's not great for character work.
Yeah. Well, I find actually I've gone in for a couple of auditions out here in LA that a lot more character work is shifting over to the Sennheiser, which is
Is it?
surprising. Yeah, well, it depends. Like the purists love the U87, the
Oh, of
U87 to death.
course.
But every studio is kind of moving away from the U80. Like the newer, younger people are moving away from the U87
Hmm.
in different ways. Some people are like, "Yeah, we'll use the transformerless mic, the TLM
Right.
103 or the 49." And then some people are just going, let's just use shotgun mics because it sounds more cinematic anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And on a lot of my videos, I was just getting like tons of questions. So I wanted to answer as many as possible, and I love the sound of a shotgun mic.
Mhm.
But if you've noticed, and I've heard other people talk about it, you got to stay on axis because if you move off,
Yeah.
and I'm really physical, so I'm looking. And I'm looking for maybe the TLM 102 or 103. I've actually
Mhm.
done some stuff on that mic, and I was like, oh my god, oh, a beautiful, beautiful mic.
Yeah.
So
It,
that's
it's
probably gonna be
it's a beautiful mic.
that's the next upgrade. So anyway, yeah, the I've been on the hunt for some other voice actors to interview because on my YouTube channel, people just keep asking me questions about voiceover and getting in the industry and acting and mics and stuff like that. And I felt like even though I'm confident in the responses that I'm giving and that I'm confident in the information that I'm sharing, I wanted some other people's points of view. I wanted some other to interview some people that have a different perspective. Sorry, on the industry and get some more information out there because one thing that I've noticed and a lot of other people have talked about it is voice actors are closed off. We're away from the rest of the world. We don't talk to anybody. We're in our little tiny rooms, and we just we don't share information. We don't really talk. There's no community. There's no real community. We see each other every now and then if we go to like conventions or auditions, but it's not like, hey, it's not the same. So, now you said you're from LA.
Yeah, I'm based out of LA. I grew up there, moved around a bunch, and then moved back to pursue this full time.
Okay. Where in LA? Like Burbank or? Well,
Yeah,
I don't want anyone hunting you. Don't give me like your
sure.
mailing address. Yeah.
I live a little north of Burbank, up sort of in the suburbs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's close to where like the I think it's the Cartoon Network studio home office or something like that. I think that's in Burbank,
Cartoon
right?
Network. That's in Burbank. I'm about probably like with no traffic, like a half-hour drive, 25-minute drive from Burbank.
Okay.
I want to move closer, but right now I'm in a nice spot. I'm cool where I am, and it's not that bad if I
Yeah,
because
just
it
tell
really
people that you're
yeah
in LA.
I do because LA is not just the city of Los Angeles. It's like greater LA County. So it's like all of the tiny little cities that make up LA, Burbank, Glendale, the Antelope Valley, all of that
Right.
sort of constitutes LA.
So, do you know Philip Wilburn?
No, I don't believe I do.
He's a voice actor who lives in Burbank. He does a lot of fake Donald Trump for Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
he just lived in Burbank, and I'm just trying to find more people that know him because he's such a really cool guy. I wish he would, get out more and tell people more about himself because he's one of the people that actually got me into doing voiceover and doing impressions and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to find more people that know of him. And he's so recluse, and he works in like such a small area. And I'm like, dude, branch out a little bit more.
Honestly, though, that's a lot of voice actors are kind of like that. They like their privacy. They like not being known. Some of them, it depends on the project. Like if they're in a very sort of uh, huge show or an anime or something, they're bound to get attention. But a lot of us just go through our daily lives like undercover. Like, hey, I'm in that thing that you're playing or that you're listening to, and you don't know about it.
Oh yeah, that's
But
so
yeah,
much fun. By the way, when someone's playing, you're like, that's me right there.
yeah, just right next to the ear. Hey, that's me.
Just in his ear. One of my first real games, I think it was called Age of Defenders or something like that.
Hmm.
It was one of my first. No, that's not true. My first game was like one of those hidden object games, Frozen Empire or something like that. Some random. Just take two things and mash them together. It's how those games are made. And almost every single time, I always play the villain. And in Age of Defenders, I just play some like halfway through the game. Spoiler alert. Not really. Nobody plays it. And like halfway through the game, the character that I voice just comes in and then just wipes out your entire army. Just part of the story. Just destroys everything. And then I hear my voice and I'm like, I hate that guy. I know that's me, but I hate him. What a jerk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't ask. Are we allowed to swear on this
It's fine.
show podcast?
It's fine. Don't be like every single word or just every racial slur you can think of. I mean, with him.
I will restrain myself. No, I had that same situation. It was this game that came out on mobile. It was Shadowverse, and it's this like virtual card game, kind of like Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
And I did an interview with like one of the community game. And then I get a call from like a really old friend from like childhood. Like I grew up with him in elementary school and middle school and stuff. And he calls me and he's like, dude, you're in Shadowverse? I play that game like competitively. And I was
Nice.
like, oh my gosh. And we like reconnected. It was really, really cool. Apparently my card is super hated because everyone, he's like, which was like, yes, my goal. Because like he's super overused and people think he's
So you're
annoying.
the OP
And I'm like,
one.
yes. Exactly. And
You're
I'm
the
like,
one that when the other guy puts it down, the son of a.
like, damn it. I'm like, my dream. I did it. See, that's all I wanted. All I ever wanted was to have a character to go down in infamy, just to be like, oh, damn it.
So do you do mostly character work? Is that like the majority of your voiceover?
Yeah,
career?
I would definitely say so. It's where my main interest is, and it's where
Mhm.
sort of my career has gone. I started in high school doing musical theater and singing, and then it led on to improv and then stage acting and all of that. So my primary interest is the theatrical side, the acting side of it. And then when I got into voice acting, my first entry into it was anime. That was my first professional role.
Of
I
course.
booked. Yeah, I
It's
booked.
the best one to go into.
It's so much fun. It's a ton of fun. It's really hard to get into. It's not only just, it's hard to get to know the people, but then it's like, the acting as well. Doing ADR is for
Oh my
me it was
gosh.
easy because it's music and I get rhythm pretty well, but for a lot of people it's quite the learning curve. But no, my first show was One Punch Man on Toonami, which was like a crazy first show to be in because it's so popular.
Dude.
And then from there I did a couple more, and then since then I've been doing a lot of video game work. That's sort of been where I've been sitting right now. A little bit of anime and then a good amount of video games. So yeah, mostly character work is what I do.
What's your character in One Punch Man?
No, none of the main characters are like side characters. I played
Okay,
a
like
couple of like
background.
yeah, a couple of background characters, some citizens. They did have lines. It wasn't all background
It was
stuff.
just
There was
just constant screaming.
exactly
I would have been
yeah.
fine with that though. I would have been fine with just the screaming roles. Those can be some of the fun ones.
Those are
Like you don't
actually I
actually
had
have a script in front of you.
though
They're,
I did do a little bit of that. The sort of like filler Walla sessions are a ton of
right.
fun because you're in the room with other actors and you can just goof around with them. But I did have one of the funnier lines, like I knew it was episode 8 or something,
Mhm.
where like the heroes are like rallying to fight this giant like sea monster, and then everyone's like, the heroes are here to save us, and then out of nowhere, my character who's like on camera is just like, heroes rock! I just yelled that out. I made my director laugh, and I was like, sweet. That was a ton of fun.
Well, good. Good. Yeah, I'm gonna like be listening for you. Probably not. I'm probably not gonna be able to pinpoint it, but I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna
You
try.
you
I'm gonna
you you
listen to
might
it.
be able to. Yeah, I sound like my regular 16-year-old sounding self. So in
How
video
old are you
games,
anyway?
I am not 16. I'm 20 years old.
Okay.
But close enough. But I just stopped growing at 16. So but no, but it's funny because like in video games, I never get cast with my voice. I usually always get cast for like deeper voice characters. Like I did this fantasy open world game where I played like a giant that
Mhm.
sells furniture. That was my reaction. So the director's reading, and like
Kind
this
of
is
a
the first time he's seen it all. He's like, so you're a giant. Oh, you sell furniture. Okay, yes." And I'm just reading the lines like, "Okay, I got this." And I'm like,
Yeah, like you want this chair over there? It's a very nice chair. Hey, it's better than that guy's chair. Buy my chair.
and I'm just like, "All right, this is
dude. That was
my
good.
my job."
That was
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, and I was surprised that I think it was just because I've done singing for years. I have
Oh yeah.
a deeper range than some younger sounding guys do. But yeah, I've been able to use that a bunch, which is fun.
Yeah,
Good.
I've also noticed that, and I've been telling a lot of people that is that one of the best ways to really work on your range and work on your breathing and flexibility is singing.
Yes.
It's something that I do a lot, not professionally, God no, uh, but it is something that I do to kind of like you know, stretch out the vocal cords, which I probably should have done yesterday, but I didn't think it was gonna go on that long. It was a World War II style screaming combat.
Ooh,
Get down,
hooray!
dude. And if that is the most screaming. Unless you're working on Dragon Ball Z, that is the most screaming you'll ever do in your life. Period.
Oh, those games always, yeah. When it's like, but I kind of I have a sick like fascination with that. I think
Mhm.
it's those parts are fun where we get through the lines. It's like, all right, we're doing all the efforts. I'm like, yes. I don't know why. I get a kick out of screaming. Although like I still haven't done one of those really intense like 4 hour sessions yet because
Oh,
I always end up finishing early. Like I'm always like it's like, all right, you're gonna have a 4 hour session today. I go in and I'm done in 2. I'm like, okay. So like, and the last like yelling thing I had was this very soft spoken detective. So it was still like, huh. And I'm like, well, that's not much of like, it's not like grenades. It's like
yeah.
frag out. Like I didn't have to like
Right.
go. But I get a kick out of those.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun, and I do a lot more of the efforts now as I've gotten older, and it's one thing that it gets easier for me.
Yes.
I also have like an acting background, and my dad started out in musical theater when he was in college, and he did it all the way up until I was about like maybe 7, 8. And that was when I really found out what acting really was. It didn't really click until I saw my dad pretending to be someone else, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what they're doing. And I was like 6 years old, and then I wanted to do acting, and so I did acting, and then I was in theater, and then I actually did clowning and puppeteering, and
Nice.
stand-up comedy. I still did stand-up comedy, and it wasn't really until I was out on my own, and I was the only money that I had. I was the only thing that brought money into my house. It's like, if I don't make enough money, I don't pay bills and I don't eat. So I started doing voiceover, because I was doing impressions on YouTube, and people thought that I should do voiceover. And one of the people was Philip Wilburn. And he was like, you should try, voices.com, which we'll get into in a second. That was the first place that I actually posted and did voiceover. And the first gig I ever got was doing Daffy Duck for College Humor. And I saw it, and I had never done a Daffy Duck before in my life. Never. There wasn't one that I was comfortable with. And so I saw it, and I was like, all right, this is my thing, and I'm gonna do this. And I had a really cheap mic, and I didn't really have a setup, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And so I listened to the two guys who are most known for doing Daffy Duck, and I listened to them, and my idea was to do something in the middle. And so I did that, and I sent it in, and they contacted me within an hour after I sent in the audition.
Nice.
And I think I got paid like $300-400. And after that, I was like, I need to take this way seriously. I need to really do this. And so after that, most of what I did was on voices.com, but now I've like kind of gotten away from that. I don't do nearly as many auditions anymore. And the way if I do auditions, it's way different. Like before, when I was starting out, I was auditioning for everything. Even if it was like the truck commercial or the monster truck rally voice, I was still auditioning for that. And it wasn't until later I was like, you are wasting your time on doing those voices. Maybe if I was doing it now, maybe I could do it now, but not earlier. And so over time, I started to get more into it, and I was sharing my entire journey with people. And then I started doing Fiverr, which has been a huge controversy, and stuff like that. Now, I'm assuming that most of your stuff is agencies. I mean, if you're doing animes, it's mostly working through agents and managers. Am I correct?
Yeah, yes and no. The funny thing about LA is, especially, it's sort of in the non-union world, at least. A lot of the work ends up actually not filtering through the agents. The agents get a lot. The top agents get the union work, right? They're usually union reps, and they want to get the union auditions to the big union talent. For non-union talent, it's some of it gets to the agents, and then some of it you just have to know the casting directors. So the anime, I had to know the casting director. I ended up getting to know the casting director, got an opportunity that way. Before I was living in LA, all my work was online. It was through, making those relationships and finding auditions or finding clients and being like, hey, do you need voices for your game? Hey, do you need this? And I built up a pretty good, client base that way. Since I've moved out, I would say I've gotten a lot more opportunities through my agent. But I still have to do a lot of the grunt work myself of just making the connections, especially out in LA.
Okay,
right?
So doing like more like cold calling.
It's cold calling, and it's referrals. Like, that's the big thing out here too, is like people want to know who you are at a personal level. It's a very sort of like kind of like what you mentioned at the beginning. The community can feel closed off, but it's tight knit, right? So you need to know somebody to know somebody. So like if you want a really good agent, you need a referral from a producer or a casting director. If you want to get to know the casting director producer, you need to get to know them through this or that. So it's all very much just like it's networking, but it's getting to know people. It's becoming friends with people is really really what a lot of my job is. It's a lot of emails. It's a lot of going to different like business events and community events and stuff like that, just to sort of get your name out there and get
Kind of
get
like
in front of people.
voiceover, like seminars or workshops or. We don't really have like functions like Comic-Con or anything like that, do we?
Well,
We-
we
well,
kind of do.
we
Well,
kind-
there's
actually, no,
different
yeah.
kind of. Yeah, but I mean, in LA, it's a lot more casual. It's like, hey, a friend of a friend is having a birthday party, and that friend of a friend is the voice of Donald Duck. You want to come? I'm like, yes. It literally,
course.
yeah, yeah. That I mean, and I've done that before. I remember when I first moved out here, I looked, I was like, I went to a friend's birthday party, and I was scrolling through the pictures the next day, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't like half of those people. I was like, oh, that's Tayson Day, that's so and so, that's so and so, that's weird. Like it was really sort of like surreal that I'm like, okay, I guess I should start paying more attention to who I'm dining with. But yeah, it's not so much like formalized conventions. I think there are maybe a few catching on here and there, but at least out in LA, it's very much just sort of casual functions or workshops and classes, get-togethers of that sort, and that's sort of where the people mingle.
What kind of voiceover workshops or classes have you taken in LA? Is there anyone that you really enjoyed taking a class with, or is there one that you'd recommend to people for like getting into the industry?
Ooh, that's tough to say. Just addressing that last statement. I would say anybody you recognize name wise from a show or a game is a kind of a good place to start. I mean, I could
Right.
rattle off tons of names: Tony Oliver for anime, Richard Horvitz for animation, Debbie Derryberry. There's so many names, right? So many names, and they're all wonderful. Crispin Freeman. And in terms of getting a foot in the industry, all those people will help because they're veterans of their craft. So if it's not getting you a connection or recommending you to an agent or a producer or casting director, it's helping out with a demo. It's sort of mentoring you on a personal level. I think like the most important thing, because a lot of people are like, well, I need to take classes, I need to have a coach, I need to do this, that. What you really need, what it boils down to, is you need a mentor figure in your line of work. You need someone to sort of that you can sort of get approval from, because whether we like to admit it or not, approval is an important thing when you're starting out in a
It
line
is.
of work, because you need to know, oh, I need keep doing this, or let's not do this. Those are important things to know. So having someone who knows what they're talking about, has been working for a while, and is not just in it to take money out of that's
Right.
really important. So
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's a laundry list of people I can name out here who are very, very helpful. But yeah, it's the Bob Bergens, Richard
Oh
Horvitzes,
my
all
gosh,
those
Bob
people.
Bergen. I didn't really know who he was until there was a Facebook community thing, and I typed a question, and apparently it was a question that everyone hated.
Oh,
It was as if I had asked something about abortion. There was very much a divide, and there was a fight on the feed over the thing.
wow.
It was part of my YouTube. I was talking to people about different websites and my opinions on working on pay to plays and freelance and agencies and my kind of thing. And I wanted other people's opinions on that. I wanted to get some other voice actors' opinions. And so I asked this very broad question, what's your opinion on this? And they were enraged.
Yeah.
Most of it came from the word Fiverr. As if their
Ah,
stepfather was
that'll do it.
named Fiverr and he beat them and put them in like the basement. It was very
God.
intense. And Bob Bergen
Yeah.
came out of nowhere like an angel sent from heaven. And he was like, all right, everyone calm down. And he sent me his email. He's like, contact me and we can talk about this off this site. And for like 2 days, we emailed back and forth. He gave me all kinds of advice. I sent him everything that I had. He wanted to know, where I was in the industry, where my talents were, and he gave me all kinds of advice. And he's actually now moved up to one of my top favorite voice actors, just because he was so open on just a random Facebook page. And that is something that I have learned, is that guys who've been in the industry the longest are more open to talk about it. The guys that are like just below genuinely professional are very like stuck up. They're like, I'm amazing. You're not amazing. You need to pump the brakes a little bit, calm down.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's this thing, and it literally, it's the people right before being professional, and what's keeping them from being there is there's this arrogance. There's this sense of that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm the gatekeeper to any of these topics, and it was ridiculous. I remember when I first started engaging in the online community. People would ask the simplest of questions. Just like, oh, do I need a headshot if I'm a voice actor? Kind of a simple question. And my answer was, well, it's not a necessary thing, but it might be a good thing to have if you're an actor. If you're an actor, you need a headshot. And then someone commented like, oh, so if we're not actors, if we don't have headshots, and it was like, what? Or like or more recently, I did a similar thing. I posted my opinion on some demo reel practices, because I produce demo reels for actors as well.
Nice.
And I posted my opinions on different practices that I had seen in the industry from some leading professionals that I was like, I'm not really a big fan of this. Here's why. And I was surprised at just the volume of people like who disagreed with me. And and you'll learn that it's just people can be very opinionated. The people who are actually professional and have been here for a long time, or even keeled, they'll explain like, look, this is why I feel this way, blah, 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 blah. And they're not going to be angry about it. But yeah, I know all about the people who feel holier than thou and will tout, you need to get a Neumann or else you're not professional, or blah. Like, it's just, no.
I think a lot of it has to do with a fear from a lot of the people that have like not really challenged me necessarily, but every now and then when I'll post like something just giving my opinion or my point of view in the industry or anything, there's always someone that'll come in and try to basically have the exact opposite opinion. And you look and it's someone who hasn't done anything, and I think a lot of that is fear. They're like, I'm relevant too. But when it's someone who has gotten to the point where their name means something in the industry, they have nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly.
They know that they got it. They know that they have something of value.
And that's what separates the true professionals from the people who are like, I'm like I have I matter. Like it's that understanding of like, look, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to do anything. I'm going to let my work speak for itself, right? And you can have that attitude wherever you are, whether you're Bob Bergen or whether you're someone like me who's still relatively new to the industry, young, and is like, look, I know I'm good. I know I don't need to prove anything. I just need to keep getting better and working on me. Like, I'm not out there to be like, I'm relevant too. I'm here. Like, I have no need to do that. I'm going to let my work speak for itself. And that's really the attitude and the maturity it takes to be taken seriously, because there's a difference between having the eagerness to prove yourself and then just being desperate to be noticed. And it's a fine line, but it's what can sort of ruin your chances with some people if you're just like trying too hard.
Right. And I also think a lot of it has to do with the fact that because we don't know how big the voiceover world is, we don't know how big the voiceover industry is, and we're so closed off and so solitary. We don't know that there is enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
And so we think it's a shoot off. We think it's a shootout, and like in the acting world, we know, that we can see on screen how many actors there are. We know how many movies come out in a year. We know how many, independent films come out in a year. You can look them up, and there's thousands per film. But when it comes to voiceover, we're relatively we slip under the radar. Even if you're listening to like a voiceover commercial, you're not actively thinking about it. You're just like
Yeah.
listening to what the commercial's about. You don't know that there's that many commercials, there's that many voices in that commercial, there's that many companies out there that use voiceover. We just don't know how big it is, and we think it's a constant head clashing. Like, who cares, if we can both do very similar voices? There's tons of companies that would rather work with that person rather than me. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and I feel like that needs to happen more. That people need to like kind of calm down, just, work on your craft. Let's all have fun. The internet's
Yeah,
a big place.
and I was surprised when I moved out to LA. I mean, it's not everyone. I don't want to speak broadly, but I would see instances where even like at the professional level, they can feel very closed off to other new voice actors. It's this attitude of like, oh, well, you're not a real voice actor until you're blank or until you've done blank. And
until you've done this class, you're nothing.
Yeah, or until you're union, you're this, or until you've
God.
done this with this person. Like it's frustrating, and I don't want to fault those people, but I think that attitude is not helpful because like when we're going up against other actors for auditioning, we're not competing against them, right?
Right.
Because the bottom line is it's not about people think it's like I have to beat that person. It's not about what they have, right? It's about showing what you have and showing them that this is it should be you they go with, right? If they choose that other person, it's not because they sabotaged you or you did better and you sabotaged them and that's why you got your thing. It's because they're like, you fit the role best, you're gonna take it, right? So there shouldn't be any sort of like jealousy or sort of hard feelings about like other people in the industry. We're all like, it's not a competition. We're all playing on the same team. But I feel like most people know that. There's just a few people who get a little snippy.
Ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, who ruin it for everybody. And they're like, actually, and it's just like, all right, let's.
Yeah. They'll be like, it's like, you're not a professional unless you've, gone to this class, you've gone to this class and stuff like that. And then you ask them what they've done, and they're like, well, this and that. Nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
As far as union, now you're non-union. Is there a reason you're non-union? Is there kind of like, are you moving towards non-union, or you're like, I'm comfortable being non-union?
Oh, what a complicated question.
I know, right? It's one of my favorites.
And I'm just gonna be honest because this is my line of work. I don't like. I was surprised that whenever I get questions about voice acting, how I'm pretty bluntly honest about it. Because I want people to know the information to help them. And like the union thing right now is a little tricky, right?
God.
I love the union guys, the actors in there. I know some of them are very protective of the union, but the current market right now and the current attitude and actions of the union are not comforting, not positive. It is. It's not friendly. I mean, starting with like the most recent voiceover union controversy. There's a big video game strike, which I'm not like there were some legitimate things that they wanted that I thought were fair, but beyond that, these video game companies and a lot of these companies have had problems with the union that went beyond just making them do a lot of voices in one session or not having a stunt coordinator on set or residuals. It's there's this difficulty with the union, right? There's this difficulty when it comes to working with them that I've noticed companies are just like, look, we don't want to deal with this anymore. It's a hassle. And so I've noticed in a lot of because I am still non-union, a lot of auditions like for AAA video games are going non-union. Like I can tell you the number of like I'm talking like I don't want to name any of these games, right? But like I'm talking like huge games, top of the E3 anticipated lists are non-union. Like the big controversy, which was because of the strike, was what was it? Life is Strange, the prequel one. That one happened, and that the first game was union, and then it went non-union because of the strike. And I think at first I was like, no, the union's right, they should fight for this. But the more closer I've gotten to the industry, the more I've just seen that like people just don't want to deal with union. It's not the pay. Like I'm looking at the pay rate for these non-union games. It's the same as it would be union, right? It's just that they don't want to deal with the hassle. And beyond that, the union, as much as they tout about, we're protecting the industry, we're protecting our actors, they're pretty oblivious to a lot of the stuff going on, right? Like a lot of these things going non-union, and a lot of their union talent going either FICOR or going taking non-union jobs. For people who don't know what FICOR is, the financial core is an option you can opt into as a part of SAG-AFTRA, the union, where you can do both. You technically renounce your union rights, but you're still a union member because you pay union dues, but you can also do non-union work as well. And they're not a big fan of it. They like on their website, they highly discourage it. But the problem is the majority of voiceover work is non-union now because no one wants to deal with the union.
Right.
So all these video games, all these commercials, and so all of these union talent, these big name people who I don't even have to name, you can just look at any non-union video game or show and go, that's that person, that person, that person, they're all union. It's all public information. And it surprises me that the union just doesn't notice or doesn't care. I don't know if it's willful obliviousness or they just think everything's fine. But like something's going on with the union that I'm not cool with. I've talked to a couple of different. I was talking to a voice actress who's well known in the industry. She's from Street Fighter and Mass Effect and all these different games. And she was like, oh yeah, and she was just like,
for her.
Don't go. Yeah, she's like, don't go union. Like it's not a good idea. Don't do it. Like because once you're in, it's you're kind of gonna feel trapped and used and stuff like that. So like the reason I am non-union is just because I have not done any union projects. I have not been Taft-Hart lead, which is given temporary access to the union when you book a union job as non-union. And I've not been forced into the union. So basically, after you've done 2 union gigs, they force you to join the union, or you cannot, or you just can't audition for union jobs anymore. So, but yeah, I'm non-union right now, and my trepidation right now is just like the union is not solid, right? It's not unified. When your top VO talent are either FICOR and being quiet about it, not saying that they are, or are doing non-union work without telling you, that's tipping me off to maybe there's a problem.
Right. And that's a lot of the same stuff that I had learned very early on. And I also talked to, do you know who John Bailey is?
Yes.
He's the Epic trailer guy. And I had a coaching session with him, and he and I have actually done work together on College Humor. It's basically him and me as like the 2 male voices for like the higher pitched male voice, and then you got the lower, deeper, more manly voice, which is John Bailey. So it's like him and I, we started talking, and we were talking about the union. And I've also heard this from other people, and I'd known this for a while, is that it is very, it was a great idea when it came out. When it came out, it was very necessary. There was a lot of companies that were screwing over the actors, and they were trying to pay them as little as possible, and then union was absolutely necessary to get everyone on track. They're like, all right, this is what they're worth. You're going to pay us. We're going to pay them. You're not going to shortchange them. And so why it was created is a 100% necessary.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, due to the fact that there is so much communication and people do have a better idea what a service is worth, what the work is actually worth, there is more of a you can work on your own. And it is something that I prefer. Sorry, my screen just went out for a second. No reason. Right. Yeah, just totally no reason, just blanked out for a second. But yeah, there is I forgot what I was saying. The union. I don't feel like you need to be union at all anymore. And it really is a controversial thing to say. I know a couple people that are union, and they would probably more or less agree. It's not friendly anymore. From what I've heard, they're taking money and they're holding on to it. And they're just holding on to it, and because they're more or less like a bank, they get interest kind of thing. And unless you really hound them for your paycheck, they hold on to it. And so they have like all kinds of, there is a maximum amount of time that they're allowed to hold on to a check. And what's happening is that they're holding on to that for literally the maximum amount of time. and so they can build interest. And that was what was told me, and I had already suspected that. But the reason the union was invented, I agree with and I like.
Yeah,
Um,
and what's unfortunate is like I want the union to work, right?
Mhm.
You know, if a I mean unions in general, the idea to have an organization to speak on your behalf between you and an employer in case anything goes wrong, that's a good thing to have, right? It's why I think the strike was a good thing. You know, there were some legitimate arguments, but right now I just think, like I said, the union is sort of like closing in on itself. It's like everything's fine, and it's like
Yeah.
no, there's some like the I mean the whole voices.com voice bank thing that just
Oh
happened
God.
recently, like that whole thing is a result of I think a big result of this, the union kind of looking the other way and being like, whatever, or
Yeah.
just being willfully ignorant, like everything's fine, and it's like
We're good. We're
no,
good.
not
We're fine.
really.
Not no.
Yeah, no, and it really is like it's easier for a company to deal with an individual than it is an organization like the union,
Mhm.
right? It's easy to just go, hey, we need this voice. What are your rates? What do you want? And it could be the same exact rates the union would pay. And they'd be like, cool, because that's easier. It's easier to deal with an individual than it is with the union right now. And that's unfortunate, really, is what it is.
All right. Had to go get some more of this honey, lemon, and warm water.
Ah, yes.
Ah.
The
Such a
nectar of the voice
The
actor.
nectar of the voice actor. I also, I don't know if you know about this. It's a little, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, is that alcohol?
Something like that. Yeah, yeah, it's very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah.
It's for the throat. I normally do that when I do, because I do, I used, this is for singing, but I use it when I do, like, any of the Dragon Ball Z characters for Cartoon Hooligans, because they just want a lot of screaming. And so I'm like, all right, I just empty a whole bottle. So don't do that. Don't empty a whole bottle. All right. So we're talking about union and the pros and cons to union and our feels on our feels on union. What a weird way of putting that. Our feels. Let's all talk about our feels about union.
Just wanted to talk about my feels.
My
Just got to get it
feels.
out there into the ether.
Into the ether of the net. So we know that online voiceover services or online platforms is basically where everything is going. Even if it's through Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and contacting just through email. Like I know quite a few people that actually get work through Twitter, which blows my mind. I have no idea how they're doing that. And then a couple people that actually land relatively good jobs off things like Craigslist. And I'm like, how in the name of God are you getting work off Craigslist? Okay,
Yeah, that one blows my mind.
Yeah, that is the MySpace of information on the internet. That is. I've gotten some work off Facebook. I mean, that's relatively common because people see your stuff, they contact you. People contact me on YouTube because they see, my demos and stuff like that, and so that one makes sense. But then there's of course the websites that are specifically for voiceover, and over the years I've been up and down on the idea. I mean, I've made a good amount of money doing work through those sites, and I can see why a lot of people don't like it, especially people that are in the industry. I can see why a lot of people are very against that kind of service. Especially each site. Each site is completely different. Some are, better for voiceover. Some are better for the client. Some are better for the company, stuff like that. And I want to get your opinion if you think that the websites are good, if there's ones that you really hate, that kind of stuff.
It's been up and down, especially more recently. There was a big development in the industry that I have no qualms about talking about.
Right.
I'll get into a little bit later. In general, I think it's not a bad idea, right? Like you said, a lot of the work is just going online because the medium is changing, right?
Mhm.
YouTube and all of these different either YouTube Red series or little cartoons and stuff on YouTube. If companies need explainer videos, they're going online on internet platforms. So a lot of the work is just going there. So in terms of the specific voice acting websites, it depends. In sort of indie space and sort of the freelance voice acting, just getting into it, you have Behind the Voice Actors, Casting Call Club, Voice Acting Club. We used to have Voice Acting Alliance until that's no longer around anymore.
Right.
But they're hit or miss. I was fortunate. I got the chance to consult for one of the websites. I got in contact with one of the people, and I just like, here's a couple ideas to make the website better.
Yeah.
So what's great about it is that anyone can audition, anyone can post anything.
Mhm.
What's bad about it is anyone can audition and anyone can post
anyone can
anything.
on it, yeah.
And as a director myself, I'm not a fan of public casting calls, just because I don't want to sift through everybody to find who I want.
God.
Right? I want to find. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Like, you'll see some of these auditions
I did that
where it's 200
twice.
auditions for one character, and I'm just like, nope, this is not happening. And I stopped doing. I did it once, and then I never did it again. So now I have a private casting call. I have an email list where if I have a casting call, I send it out to people. I'm like, here, audition, and I get maybe 30 auditions on a character, and they're all great, right? And now I just need to pick which one I like the most.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of it in that front. And then a lot of these indie companies or individuals casting don't have a good grip on how the casting process works, how much to pay, what to include in the description, what not to include, and it can be a little messy.
Right.
There was a recent game, and I don't feel like I don't want to say the name of the game or the title. Let's just
say what kind of game it was.
Okay. It was an indie title that was just announced for the Switch. And there were auditions on a well-known voice acting casting website that I'm actually a fan of. I know the person who runs it. She's wonderful. And let's just say that they were advertising it's a commercial game. It's going to be sold on Steam and on the Switch, and they weren't going to pay their voice actors. Yeah, so exactly.
Weren't going to be paying their voice actors at all?
Oh, no, it was unpaid is what they had it as. And my good friend who runs that site basically contacted them and said, hey, that's not cool. You need to pay your actors. If you're going to make money off this, that you need. And there's actually a mini little controversy about it in the community. Like, some people are like, well, why do you need to be paid for this thing? Like, some of the like when you first start out as a voice actor, there's that some of those voice actors are like, I'll just do anything,
You're
right?
just talking into a mic. Sorry, I just
exactly
threw up in the back of.
I know exactly.
I can't even right
and it's
now.
like, it's other voice actors, and I'm just like, what? And anyway, so like they ended up paying them. I don't think it was a exorbitant amount or even a fair amount, but they did, and the game is out, and I think it's like front page on Nintendo's website. Not to, like I said, not naming names, but anyway, it was frustrating. But like I said, that can happen. But if you have good stewards of those websites, like that one in particular, then things go well. If you don't have good stewardship, those websites can end up being a little messy. Either, what projects that don't go anywhere, projects that are listed as professional when they're not professional.
Right.
And it can get real messy. And the other reason I don't like public casting calls is I don't like the comments and the upvotes and the, oh my gosh, your audition was so great. Oh my gosh, you need to cast this guy. Like, just stop. This is why I don't like it. And so the smaller tier websites can just be messy, either on the client side or the actor side. And then moving up, you have, your pay to play sites, you have your voices.com, you have your voice123, and and a lot of the old guard voice actor guys are not huge fans of it, because a lot of the old guard don't like non-union work.
Right.
But my thing is, like, in general, they're kind of against it. They think it's union or nothing. But like I said, we talked about earlier, that's just not the case anymore. Like, so many big projects, like Disney commercials, Marvel video games, big video game titles are just going non-union, right? They're going on these voices.com websites. So you're a fool to say that, well, I'm not going to go for that because that's not professional. It's like, well, no, it is. Like you're just missing out on work. So I'm not a fan of the model in general. The idea that you have to pay a monthly fee, a sizable monthly fee to audition is not how I think the industry should work.
Right.
It's like, prove yourself, and then through your audition or through your through getting to know the person or whatever. But it's a business model. It's not my favorite, but it is one, right? My problem with these websites came in two ways. There was the controversy with Voices, I think a couple of years back, where their escrow was secretive and very enormous. Like basically the client's like, oh, I'm willing to pay $500 for this role, and Voices was like, okay, and then they posted it's like paid $200, so they take $300 of that for themselves and pay the actor $200.
Right.
So there was that, and I wasn't a fan of that. And then most recently, what just happened is there is this site called voicebank.com or .net.
I've never liked
and
voice
for
bank.
many,
I'm just gonna be very honest.
you never have?
And I've never
Well,
liked it.
let me just to explain to people. Basically, what it was a place where agencies could post their talents demo reels, and clients could basically send auditions there, and then the agents would send them out to their VO talent, right? So in a sense, it was closed off, but it was for agents, right? Is really what it was. Most recently, Voices.com purchased VoiceBank. Now, many of us didn't really know what that meant,
right?
But now we do. So basically, what just came out is that Voices.com is going to integrate every project that was going through VoiceBank or is going through VoiceBank is now going through Voices. So what that means is all of those non-union auditions that I would get through my agent from VoiceBank. Many of which I've actually booked, like video game roles and stuff.
Right.
I will no longer get to audition for. The only people who get to audition for those are people with Voices.com premium subscriptions who pay $50 a month or $30 a month. They get those auditions. Yeah, and then now the talent that used to be on VoiceBank, they will only get the union work through VoiceBank, which is not a whole lot. Yeah. Because the union work, that's not really how the union work goes. Right. So I'm not a fan of that, because now Voices is just like, all right, we're absorbing all this work and now you got to pay for it. And I'm not cool with that, because it's funny because actually some of that work that jumped from Voices over to VoiceBank was, people who were just like, yeah, I don't want to deal with the Voices.com anymore. I'm going to go straight to the agents. And now it's like, well, welcome back. So yeah. And it's a bit of a give and take, right? It's like I said, the industry's changing, right? Everything's going online. So, and now it's even more, I would say it's more advantageous to have a Voices.com account than maybe it is to have an agent. Like, because in a sense, you could pay, if you book it once a month, you are making up for that subscription by at least like half, right? Or more than half, right? So, but I'm not really happy with the work going away from the agents, right? I think there could have been some interplay or some sort of like compromise where it's like that the auditions still will go to the agencies, but will also go to the people with the paid subscriptions. Right. I don't know. I'm not sure I like it, but I understand why people do like it, and I understand why the old union guys don't like it.
Right.
Yeah.
My thing has always been like anything. Most websites where they have like you have to have an agent to like connect and stuff like that. Like, now my thing is I have an acting agent, but they're absolutely dreadful when it comes to voice acting. I kept telling them, like, you really need to, because they have a page. They had a page for voice acting, and there was nothing on it. And I was like, I do voice acting. Like, that's my main thing. And I was like, you have to put me on there. So basically, they just put like a thing as Timmy the Bear. Oh, he does voiceover. Like, that's basically, they didn't really put any time into it.
Yeah, a lot of those agents, they say, oh, we have voiceover, and then it's like, no, we don't really do voiceover. And it's, that's tough.
Yeah, I was like, why do you have that on your page? And he's like, well, because everyone just expects us to have it. And I'm like, well, then do something with it. And so
Yeah.
I had demos produced, and I sent them to him, and I was like, pick the one that you like, pick the demo that you like, whichever one. Then I'll mix it and send it to you and stuff like that, and I'll condense it and stuff like that. And I also send him headshots. So it's like, pick the one that you like, you think that will fit, and we'll put it on there for that page. And to my horror, he just uploaded every photo and every demo, just like a Facebook feed, just a stream. I was like, what have you done? What have you
Wow.
done? And so for the longest time, I was trying to like find another agent, but there's a lot of agents. As far as like LA, they only work with you if you have like an ISDN or connection, some kind of phone patch system.
Right.
And then other ones, they're like, well, we're not looking for anyone of your talent or caliber. So the majority of my work is literally on my own shoulder. Even most of my acting doesn't come from my agent. Some of my best work has
Right.
come from just me doing, hustling on the streets, as opposed to them actually putting anything out there. Because my agent, they've twice, I think it was just twice, sent me to an audition to do a drill sergeant. I'm 5'4", in terrible shape, and my voice is normally, prepubescent. And I'm just sitting there, like, in just a red polo, and there's dudes that are like 7 feet tall, swole,
Oh dear.
burr cut, and I'm like, are we enlisting? Are we joining
my
the
gosh.
actual army? And they're all just huge. And they all go in and they all just like blah, 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 blah. And I go in and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I look at the lady. The last time I looked at the lady and she looked at me, she like looked down, looked at me, and she was like, oh God. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? And so I just kind of like quickly read the lines and I was like, all right, see ya. Just kind of like, we could both tell this is a waste of our time. So I was like, blah, 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 blah. I've accomplished what I came to do. You can erase that tape, and I'm just gonna go. So as far as like agent work, I feel
And
like
you know what, dude? I will. I after the call, after the interview, let's talk a little bit more. I can. We can talk about some agents that might be a good fit for you.
That you-
but
that you
anyway, yeah,
recommend.
agent work. Yes, that I would recommend to you.
yeah. Because as far as like actual agents, I for a long time I felt like, unless I was living in New York or LA, for the most part, I'm just gonna put off the actual agent thing, because what I have in the Texas area, there are some that are really good, but since there are so few agencies that work with voice actors, like genuinely work with voice actors, there's not enough to go around. They don't have as many openings. And so most of my stuff is on my own, and people ask me, how do I get an agent? And I'm like, I have no idea. I have an agent. I can tell you how to send stuff in, how to get a good agent. That's go find somebody else. Go talk to somebody else. And I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where agents are going to go out of style. I don't think there's ever going to go, like the union. I don't think it's slowly getting to a point where you're not going to need them. I feel like agents are always going to be there. Managers are always going to be relevant. But as far as like the union, I think I have 2 union credits to my name. One of them was for the Daffy Duck thing, which was my introduction to the union, to the whole idea of the union. And then there was another one that I think I did like a Samsung commercial or something like that. And so I have 2 out there in my name. And someone was like, hey, you ever going to join? And I'm like, probably not. Not for the stuff that I do, for the things that I do, and my path doesn't really seem to be taking me to LA and doesn't really seem to be taking me to the union.
Sure.
Do you feel like people have to live in major cities to pursue a successful and profitable voiceover career? This one, I get a lot of, varying opinions on this one, but I want yours.
Well, it's a complicated question. Well, if you ask any of the voiceover guys who sound like this, they will tell you no.
yes.
All you need to do is buy my book and my many workshops online.
How to be
and you can
successful
do it
as a
from
voice
home.
actor? Payeth me $1,000.
Yes. Exactly. And it's you know, that works and those people, those guys who were able to live out in Tennessee or Kansas, Nebraska, wherever they are and have like success, not like very successful voiceover careers big more than like $50,000 a year of income, somewhere around 100,000. That is not the norm, right?
Yes,
That is
they are
not
freaks.
those they're freaks, right? And they're amazing, right? It's I'm not discounting how hard they've worked and what they've been able to do, but when they say like if you can do exactly what I can do, no, you can't. That's not it's not true. You can make pretty good money living anywhere in the U.S. Like I said, a lot of stuff's going online, right? It's less about the union, less about agents, more about one-on-one. So it's possible, right? But at a certain there's only so much headspace you have, right? There's only so much you can go until you reach a ceiling, and that ceiling, like I said, is location based, right? They need to know that they can bring you in last minute to record something, into their studio, right? They need to know that they can schedule you the very next day, that you don't need to find a flight and fly out or patch in or anything's going to go haywire that way. And certain projects just can't do ISDN. Some video games can. Most commercials, I think, can do it. But like complicated character work where you need an engineer like changing dials all the time because you're going from yelling to soft to yelling to soft, or you're matching picture for ADR, it's not possible.
Or working with other actors.
You need to be in the places. Or you're doing an ensemble cast like for an animated series, prelay work. You need to be in the cities where those actors and those directors and those studios are. In your case, actually, where do you live in Texas? If you don't mind me asking.
Just one second. I'm losing you just a little bit, so I'm gonna hang up, fix this, and I'll be right back, and then I'll answer Texas.
Okay.
When last we left our heroes. I live in Texas. I live in Austin, Texas, which, by the way, is a rapidly growing film and voice acting community. The reason I moved here, I actually moved here for stand-up comedy, which it's also well known for. And because I was doing more stand-up comedy than acting and voice acting at the time. And my family lives in Texas, and I didn't want to move all the way to LA, so I wanted to find some place that was nearby. So I chose Austin because that's where I first did stand-up comedy. And so for the first few years of being in Austin, I was just practicing stand-up comedy, and again living on my own. And I found this. I was doing a lot of auditions on Voices.com, Voice 123, and stuff like that. And then, I started doing, because I also do a lot of impressions, and I started doing a lot of impressions for like family, birthday gifts, and prank calls and stuff like that on a website called Fiverr. Now we're in the dicey territory, and I started making a good amount of money last year. In January of last year, I posted a Donald Trump impression on there. If you wanted, me to, do a happy birthday as Donald Trump. And in that first month, I made almost $2,000 just doing Donald Trump.
Wow.
And then I think the entire year, I think I've made almost 7,000 off that website, mostly just doing just that alone. So the majority of my voiceover work, not the best of my voiceover work, but the majority of my voiceover work is just doing impressions for random little occasions, for little, people want me to come on their podcast and do, various impressions and stuff like that. That's a majority of my work. And that's what I, when it comes to Fiverr, that's what I recommend it for, not for serious work. And now, of course, when Fiverr first started, it was you could only charge $5. That was their slogan. That was, their marketing thing, and that was the only thing that you could do. And that's why people hated it from the beginning because people, you know, we've met these and heard these people that call themselves voice actors that have like a blue ice snowball or
Yeah,
something like that.
snowball. Yeah.
And they're, you know, just in their kitchen, and you can hear their motor, their fan to their computer like right there.
Yeah.
And they're like right, and this is how I read every line. And that's what's the majority of Fiverr. And when I saw that that's what everyone else was, that's basically what the Fiverr community for voice acting was. I was like, oh, I can clean up on this
Right.
side.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was charging, and it was only for a certain number of words and all this kind of stuff. And then recently they decided to tailor towards the talent. And so now recently, not now, but recently they have this thing where the talent can charge basically whatever they want. And at first I wasn't telling anybody that I was on Fiverr because I knew if, you know, other voice actors knew that I was on Fiverr, they would beat me in the streets. With their mic stands, just beat me to death.
Exactly.
But when they started having it where you could, you know, where the platform actually gave you the ability to charge actual industry prices, my goal was to tell everyone to do that. If you are on Fiverr, please charge actual, genuine, realistic prices. Don't do everything for Fiverr because people come to Fiverr expecting that. There was one. Someone was like, hey, you know, can you do this for me? And I gave them the price. I'm not going to say exactly how much I told them that it was going to cost, but I also gave them itemized. This is what it's for. This is what it's for. This is the total. And they were like, oh, I only wanted to spend 20. And I was like, well, good luck. Go find somebody else. And so they're like, oh, and they were all like huffy about it. And, you know, they were gone for like a day, and they came back. They're like, well, I found 4 other voice actors that'll do it for 20. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, you don't want to like compete? I was like, what? He was like, you don't want to compete for their prices? I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's fine.
First of all, if he's coming back to you, he clearly wants you.
Yeah, he clearly wants something.
Yeah, it's
and
like, is not. I'm not gonna price match. This is not Best Buy. Like...
And they came back and they're like, well, what do you charge now? And so I added $10 to the price and I just itemized it just for bullshit. Just put it back. It's like, oh, and it's just gone. And I'm like, you don't have to just, you know, if someone comes to you is like, I'll pay you this, don't settle for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Go find, because we have places where it's posted online where you can actually find out what the industry standard, what the industry prices are for, you know, for commercial work, for local work, for character work, animation. You can go find out what it is and put your price relatively close to that. There's no reason you should settle for such a small amount. And that's what made Fiverr so hated. But now it doesn't have to be that way. I can still see why there's a lot of controversy, and I don't recommend Fiverr. But anyone who's made the mistake, like I did, of having a profile on there, for the love of God, have some self-respect.
Yeah. Like, and honestly, what it is like the whole Fiverr controversy. I never got. It was just like, like I said, once they started opening it up to the creator and be like, hey, you can have tiers of payments. It's like, here's what I charge for this, and here's this, and it's itemized, and it's all about that. Like, I think that's fine, right? It's another way of making money as a voice actor. If you're an impressionist, or you want to advertise that you can do voiceover for explainer videos or whatever, use Fiverr. It's fine. Like, it's just another platform, right? Just have self-respect. It's like anything in the VO world. It's just like, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Like, for me, audiobooks are not my thing, right? You know, there's a whole world of audiobooks and people who do it. Like, I have a friend who, you know, does it for, I think, $200 an hour for each completed hour, which is pretty great. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's not for me, but he loves it and he does it. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like anything sort of new or a counter to what is the norm can sometimes be seen as dumb when it's not. Right. So yeah, I never got the Fiverr thing. Going back a little bit to what we were talking about a little bit about the locations, right? And do you need to live there? Like I said, Fiverr is an example of, no, you can do it from home. But like in your area, like Dallas is kind of the hotbed for voice acting in Texas, right? Right. There's Funimation, Sound Cadence,
oh my gosh,
Rooster Teeth. They're all there, right? Especially since Funimation merged with Crunchyroll, like now it's just like they've got a million shows going at once, right? So if you live in Texas, obviously Texas is huge, right? But Dallas is there, right? And in New York's changing a little bit. I'd say the work is kind of leaving New York and going to Dallas and LA. But yeah, I mean, it's a matter of like how far do you want to go, right? If you are comfortably making a living from home and you're good with that, then like why why break what isn't broken, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you're looking to get into like, you know, Titanfall 2 or these big anime titles, then you have to be there. That's just sort of the reality of it. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like as far as like the fear of these online services taking work away from the top tier voice actors, that's not gonna happen. Like Warner Brothers is never going to cast their latest animated film through voices.com. They're never going to, you know, they might get like a few random characters or side characters, or maybe for like the really cheap like mobile games, see that on there a little bit, but they're not going to do like the major casting on there. And so as far as like the genuine fear that, you know, voice actors are just going to lose their career, I don't believe that. I don't think that that's, you know, I feel like it's once you pass a certain threshold, you're in this agent manager territory. You're in their studio, you know, major industry tier, and below that is basically, it's a no holds bar. It's, you know, you can do either or, but once you pass a certain threshold and you have a certain weight to your name, then you fall in a different category, and you shouldn't be afraid of voices.com, Voice123. I think really a lot of it comes down to just ignorance on the voice actors' parts, which is really what's hurting a lot of these websites. There's a lot of people that aren't getting the coaching, that aren't getting, you know, they don't have any experience, and they have no idea what to expect. And so they're basically just accepting whatever gets thrown their way. And
I mean, it's, oh no, sorry.
Yeah,
and it's tough because, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we have a little bit of
This is the problem with a Skype interview.
Yeah. Oh, but I think, and so what's happening is the websites are seeing that, and they're like, oh, we can get away with this. So.
Yeah, and I also think, like I said before, if because of the way technology is, the way that, you know, with the internet and so many companies wanting voice actors, it's easier than ever to become a voice actor, right? A good phone costs like $80, $100 now, right? And a good interface, or setting up, you know, turning a closet into a studio, like it's easy, right? It's not expensive to do anymore. You don't need a professional studio to do this kind of work anymore. And because of that, there's in a sense, there's more competition, but also there really isn't, because I think the cream, for the most part, will always rise to the top, right? It allows more opportunities, which I think is good. So people who wouldn't have been seen before are getting recognition and getting work, right? Now it's just like the small, tight-knit, cut-off community of voice actors, where it was like you have to know somebody to know somebody. That's not really the case anymore. I'd say for like the top work, it still kind of is, right? You know,
it's still
for
there.
the prelay animation, right? It's there but it's there out of necessity, because they need the actors to be in one location. They need them at short notice, right? But for all the other work that would have still been union, or that's not union anymore, I think it's slipping into non-union, because like I said, it's easier just to deal with an individual and not with an organization like the union, and because it's just faster, right? You know, these mobile games, they just they're adding new characters or working on a production schedule that's super fast. They just need, hey, we need someone for Marvel's Avengers Academy to voice this character. Great, we're gonna pay you this much. Boom, done. Like, we don't need a whole casting process to go through an agent, then a union, then a this, and then a that, and then schedule
so much
a studio in Burbank.
People to talk to.
Yeah, and more of a budget, right? If you're, just deal with the individual. And I think, and I think that's kind of that's at least my thing. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on for why things are slipping that way, but I don't think that it's like, oh, we have to deal with more talent. It's just like the best people are going to have more opportunities now, is what I'd say.
Right.
Even though it's easier to get into it, that doesn't mean it's easy to make it.
Right. It's
Yeah.
you know, you can get in there, but you're not gonna get all the way to the finish line that quick, and it's gonna hurt the whole way. Like any
Yeah.
other art, like any writing,
Yeah.
acting, directing, everything.
And there's no guarantee that anyone's going to take you seriously. Like that's
Right.
the biggest when you're first starting out. That's your fight, right? And the unfortunate part is there's only so much you can do
Right.
so that people take you seriously, right? It's really on the other person to open your email or to listen to your demo reel or to look at whatever work you've done or work you haven't done and just
Right.
sort of go out on a whim and say, all right, let's give them a chance. And yeah, if you don't have the skills necessary, people just won't take you seriously and you won't make it, which is, you know, it's just the reality. But if you do and you prove it to them, then you will. So it's not really an issue.
Right. All right. I want to finish up with some advice to new up and coming voice actors or people that have been thinking about it. Maybe kind of the fears, the expectations, our personal stories, and whether or not a personal website is relevant. These are questions I get a lot. So how did you start voice acting? What was the moment? Because for me, it was, you know, someone said, "Hey, you should try voice acting. You're good at impressions."
Yeah.
What was your thing, and what was the first role?
Ooh, so everything sort of leading up to the voice acting was, you know, as a kid, I would watch a lot of cartoons. I had a big family, 2 brothers, 2 sisters.
Oh, wow.
We'd watch a lot of the same movies over and over again on road trips at home. And I would repeat lines. And for whatever reason, I had to do them in the character's voice. Like my brain just was like, it felt weird if I didn't do it in the character's voice. And it made my parents and my siblings laugh. So that was all the, you know, all the
That's all you
confirmation I
needed.
needed to keep doing that. So I kept doing that. And then I did a little acting when I was younger. Then I got into the technical side of things in middle school, then high school, musical theater, choir. That was the show. And then I started watching like anime and Avatar: The Last Airbender and Gundam and all these different shows. And that was sort of the first real moment that I was like, oh, hey, that guy in this show has the same voice as that guy in this show. And that's when I was like, oh, this is a job. People do this for a living.
Right.
And that's where the interest was garnered.
These cartoon characters aren't real? There's
Yeah,
a man behind the voice? What?
Just exactly. And when I got into college, it was my freshman year of college. I had a lot more time on my hands because it's like, oh, I can do whatever I want. And I had saved up a little bit of money. It was my birthday, and I was like, I'm thinking I'm gonna give this voice acting thing a try. So I bought some professional voice acting equipment, turned my closet into a booth.
Now, when you
and
say
just
professional voice acting equipment, what do you mean? What'd you get?
I actually did research. I got some good stuff. It's the cheaper stuff. I got a Shure large diaphragm microphone. I got, I think, a Behringer audio interface. That was probably the worst thing in my thing. That
like a mixer, like a Behringer mixer. Oh
no, it was just an audio interface. I have thus since upgraded, but actually, but yeah, I got that, and then I put up foam on the walls of a closet, and that was sort of my thing for a while. I tried some fan projects, didn't like that. Then I just tried doing little things here and there, and then I ended up getting an internship in Burbank. And I went out to Burbank, and it was at the studio that I later found out did anime and video games and stuff. And so day one, they're like, hey, you want to sit on a recording session? I was like, sure. And they're like, yeah, so you're going to sit in on a recording session for this anime called One Punch Man. And I was like, oh, okay. So I walk in, I meet the director, I meet the engineer, and then the actor walks in. And I sort of double take because I'm like, that kid is the same age as me. It was this like 18-year-old kid walks into the booth and starts doing the voice acting. He's playing one of the main characters. And after that, I was like, okay, if he can do this, I can do this. So I walk up to the producer of the show afterwards, and I was like, hey, so is it possible for like an intern or something to audition for these shows, or like possibly like get in or do something for these? And I explained my acting background and all that, and they're like, yeah, let me see what I can do. So about a month passes, and at that point I'd gotten to know people. The casting director had seen me a bunch, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask the casting director if I can have a shot. So I'm starting to walk towards her office, and the moment I do, she walks out of her office and eyes me and starts walking towards me. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, hey, Griffin. And she's like, hey, Griffin, good morning. So you're going to come in on Monday and record at this time for One Punch Man. And I was like, thanks. And that was the first thing I did. And since then, I got to do 2 more shows there. One of the 2 of which aired on Toonami. And then a year later, I moved out permanently, and I've been doing video game voice acting and such. And yeah, that's what it's been. And any advice I would give to newcomers about just, I guess, expectations. So things I've gone through, like I mentioned before, being taken seriously takes time, right? There's a lot you can do on your end in terms of, being approachable, being friendly, but professional, right? Email people with a purpose. Don't just be like, hey, blah, 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 I'm a fan, yada, yada. Be like, hi, my name is so-and-so. This is what I do. This is what I'm asking. Like, be friendly, but straight to the point and professional.
Right. Don't waste their time.
Don't waste their time, right? Because, everything you do in this business is an investment of either time or money or both. So be careful about that. And if you don't have an acting or performance background, whether it's stand-up, improv, stage acting, whatever, get some, because not only to hone your skills, but to understand that you're going to face a lot of rejection. You're going to face a lot of pressure from people, and you need to be okay with that. Like, I know some people who would just, and everyone gets this way, like after no, they're just like, oh, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Like, you need to be able to power through that, right? And I get like that. Like, I'll be like, man, I've been trying to do this, but you've got to be able to power through it and just understand and have a certain level of armor. D. Bradley Baker talked about, like, you need to build up this sort of armor. You need to know your skills and know that you're going to be okay and keep moving forward.
But don't be
you need
proud. Don't be like too.
Oh no,
Yeah,
don't be
bombastic.
proud.
Yeah.
Just know who you are, and knowing who you are means knowing what you're good at and knowing your weaknesses, right? That knowing how to play to your strengths and how to work around your weaknesses or work on your weaknesses will make you not only a better actor, a better whatever, just a better person in general. And
I think coaching would help that out like tremendously, because getting a god's eye view on your situation can take you in all kinds of directions. Like, you don't know what you don't know, when you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't exactly. And like we talked about earlier, having a mentor figure as someone in industry where, like I said, if you think back to like the olden days where there were masters and apprentices, that was because there was no formalized education for being a blacksmith or a doctor or whatever. It was, you learned the trade from someone who's been in it for a while, right? And with voice acting, there's no schooling for it, and nor really do I feel like there should be.
Yeah.
Why pay thousands of dollars to learn how to do something that way anyway, right?
Especially when the
you don't need
majority
to earn
of
it.
professional voice actors are more than willing to coach you
Yeah, exactly.
and give you advice.
And there's no certifications. It's not like you need to, like a doctor, you need to have the practice to do it and have certifications. Voice actor, you need a mentor. You need someone who knows what they're talking about, who wants to nurture you and help you, whether that's a coach or a director or whoever. You need that person in your life. So find someone or a couple of people who you can sort of act as mentors to you, and then get involved with other people in the industry. Be friendly. If you live in LA or one of these meccas of voice acting or entertainment, try and get involved. If there's an event like an anime expo or some sort of convention or just a get together, reach out. Most of these people are very friendly. Like, just, hey, I'm so and so, I'm new in town. Wanted to just say hello. If you ever wanted to grab coffee, like, most people are very, very comfortable just doing that and getting to know new people. And I guess the last thing I would say, know why you're getting into this, right? Because plenty of people come up to me every day, and because I'm a director and kind of a casting director as well, I have an eye for knowing who I take seriously and who I don't. And the reason I say that is that if you're one of those people who's like, oh yeah, I've thought about doing it in a kind of a casual sense, or you don't really have a stake in it, it's just like, oh, that would be cool. Really ask yourself, is this something you're willing to do? Because it's hard, right? Like anything in life, any profession, it's difficult. There's no guarantees. There's no steady income. So if you're not prepared for that, and if that's not something you want, please, by all means, be a doctor, lawyer, whatever, because we need those people. That's more, like, shocker. doctors, lawyers, computer scientists are more important than voice actors, right? What we do is cool and inspiring to some people, but they actually save lives. They actually change the future in,
Right.
tactile ways, right? And so if there's any sort of like if there's something you're really good at and voice acting is just something you want to do as a hobby, then know that about yourself and do it as a hobby, right?
Right.
But if you're serious about it, just throw yourself into it and work harder than anyone else. Having that mindset of there's someone else out there working harder than me, I'm gonna work harder than them. Putting it on yourself and not comparing yourself to other people, that will help you in the long run, and you'll be fine if you got what it takes.
I would 100% agree. From my experience, voice acting hasn't been anything different as far as like what to expect in stand-up comedy or acting or writing. It is 99.9% failure, rejection, sadness, loneliness, depression.
It's the arts.
It's the arts, and there's like 0.1% of genuine aha moments, like I got this. This was what I live for, and everything between those moments is just getting to the next one of those moments. As far as any other voice actors that you'd recommend for like people reaching out to, I don't want to blow up anyone's email or website, but I'm gonna name a few that I've talked to and that helped me out a lot, and why. And one of them was, of course, John Bailey. I had some coaching with him as far as like character voice acting, because it's my thing. Now, the thing with him is that he will give you a big dose of reality. He will give you a big dose of serious expectation. Like, he's not going to, it's like, oh, you're amazing. Oh, you've got this. He'd be like, this is probably going to suck for you. This is probably going to be really bad. This is hard. You're probably not going to make it. Like, and even though I had been doing this for probably like 8 years by that time, I appreciated that. It was good to constantly remind me. And then another one for me is Bill DeWeese. I go to him because I want to do more commercial and narration, just because I know that that's a big portion of the money in the industry. A lot of the voice acting money comes from narration, long form, book narration, stuff like that. And I am dreadful at those things. And but instead of just going, I'm dreadful, I'm just not going to even try. I've seen his stuff. I listened to his thing. So I go to him and he's trying to. I go to him because I'm trying to understand narration. It's one thing that I don't understand it. I don't understand the read. And the explanation is, when you're reading a character and you're reading, like if it's animation, it's cartoon, it's game, there's a character, and the words that he say are dialogue. They're designed to be natural for that character. So you can get in the character's mind. You know who the character is. You know their backstory. You know what they're all about. You get the situation, and you can read the lines, and there's more direction there. As far as commercial, it's just the it's not dialogue. It's just the words. It's not written to be like dialogue. It's written to just be information. And the problem with me, and I've found out this is a problem with a lot of people, is that they don't understand how to convey information as if it's naturally spoken word. And so that, I think, is going to be the hardest thing for a lot of voice actors. That's going to be the hardest. Some people get it. Yeah. Some people just nail it.
Yeah, some people, that's just their thing. Absolutely.
Right out of the park. And I'm like, how did you, like a wizard, like sorcery.
But it's funny because, like, flip side, a lot of those commercial guys just don't understand character voice acting. Like, I don't get it, because
Bill
it's a
DeWeese
different.
Was telling me, that he doesn't get. He's like, I cannot do character and narration. He was like, someone came to me for a game. I read the lines. I have no idea. That's it. I got nothing. So he's kind of my opposite as far as like the industry he's going for, and so he's someone that I reach out to for that kind of information. And I feel like these people are good for me for where I need to go and building my career, and that's why I recommend them. Is there anybody that you find extremely helpful?
Oh, I mean, I already rattled off some names earlier. Real quick, kind of going off of that. Another important thing about kind of knowing, like, if you're first getting into voice acting, you're
Right.
looking for, to study and to learn from these veterans, right? A great way to learn, honestly, is just through, like meticulous observation, right? When I first got into voice acting, the I Know That Voice documentary became my Bible. Like,
Oh
I would listen to
yes.
it on
Oh my
repeat, on
gosh.
over and over and over, and I would learn what they would say. I would memorize who said it. I would memorize
Right.
how they act and what they do in the booth, what they do outside of the booth. There's so much, like, almost all of my quotes I give to people are from that documentary. That 90% of the work you do as a voice actor is the work to get the work. It's the
Right.
emails, the networking, the audition, all that stuff. And it's the 10% you live for. Or, if you physically play the character, the voice will follow. That's Bob Bergen. The first one was Richard
Yes.
Horvitz. If you know those people, know the people who are at the top. The top 1% of the top 1%.
Top 1%.
Know who they are.
1%.
Exactly. Know who those people are, and from there, start researching them. Find out, do they do coaching? Bob Bergen does, but he only does it in person.
Right.
Crispin Freeman does, but and he does it online. John Bailey does it. Richard Horvitz does it, and know those people. Not just based solely off a name. Know
Right.
their work,
Right.
because there's so much you can learn through just observation and knowing from what they do outside of the booth and what they do inside of the booth. You can learn a lot. So it's those documentaries, it's interviews, it's any behind the scenes where you see them in the booth actually doing it. Like, and that's the funny thing. Like, a lot of times you'll see those clips where it's cut together of them doing voice acting. The ones you don't see are the uncut, unedited sessions, because you'll learn. That's the other thing. You have to be fine with some monotony, because it's a lot of you do a line, all right, thanks, and then the director and the engineer talk for a while. All right, we need you to go again, and it's a lot. It's a slow.
We need you to do that again. How would you like it? More but less. Can you do that for us?
Yeah, exactly. Or I know a director who's like, can I get go again, and I want more blue this time. Okay.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, he's wonderful. But yeah, it's that knowing. Like, when I sat in on my first recording session, it was eye-opening for a couple of reasons. It was, you learned that it's a tag team. It's the director, engineer, and the actor, and it's slow, it's monotonous, but I loved it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So yeah, just taking in as much as you can, so that when you're ready to take a step in your career, whether it's making a demo or a website or moving out to LA or whatever, you have some information to work off. And then real quick, you brought up websites earlier.
Yeah.
And I'll touch on that a little bit.
Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah. In my opinion, a website is basically a digital portfolio.
Right.
Make it clean, make it pretty, but not overbearing. Don't have 4 tabs: homepage, info page, contact page, maybe demo page if you need it, or what's it called, resume page.
Right.
Make it simple, right? You put your demo reels up, you put some media about you, whether it's a picture, maybe it's a art of you or something like that.
Eye-catching, flashy,
eye-catching, flashy, not overbearing. I've seen some voice actor websites where it's like 10 tabs and it's so many different things.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
make it simple. Clips of stuff you've been in, your contact info. Make it simple and make it accessible, right?
Right.
Don't hide. The worst thing you can do in general is make it difficult on a casting director or a client to find your demo reels or find clips of you.
Right.
If if it's like, I sent you a link to my website, and under that link you'll find a tab. Under that tab you'll find subtabs. Under that subtab you click this, and then you have to download this. It's like, just put the demos in the email, or put it on your homepage.
Yeah.
But don't make it a chore.
Just putting it on the front page. Right there,
Yeah.
right at like, you have your branding.
Yep.
And then just beneath that needs to be your front forward demo. Like, if that, and then
Yep.
under that should be contact information. Because if they don't like your demo, they're not gonna contact you. So why? put
Yeah,
that first?
exactly.
And then after that, you can put information about your resume, and then after that, you can do things like your studio, what you're working with. Because there are some people that, if they're working with you, through Patch, they want to know that you have professional gear and you know how to use it. So there are times when that is important and that is relevant, and I've done some. I think I've done like casting for voiceover twice, and there was one time someone just sent me and I put I need your demo, I need your website, I need your resume. All they sent was a headshot.
Ah,
What is that?
wow.
I was like, what are you doing?
There are plenty of, oh my God, there are plenty of horror stories about demos I've received or friends of mine have.
good
There's one
Lord.
where it's a guy for 3 minutes, he's fidgeting with the mic, connecting the cables, and he's like, so yeah, my name is so-and-so, and mom, I'm recording, like for 3 minutes. Or I've gotten some where it's recorded on a phone, and it's sound like in a bathroom. And then sometimes yeah, I don't want to dive too deep down the rabbit hole of demo reels. We can talk about this later because it's something I do.
Days.
But sometimes like I can, because I'm a demo producer, I can tell when a demo has been overproduced or produced in a way to make the actors sound better than they are, because I've done it before. It's our job to make you sound good, even if you don't.
Right.
Yeah, and that can be trouble because sometimes a demo is not everything. The demo is the eye catcher. It's your calling card. It's the bat signal. It's the thing to grab people's attention, and then they ask the questions. Then they go, "Oh, can you do this, this, this? Here's an audition." Right? It's not the end all be all, so don't act like it is. So yeah, but yeah, make it easy. Put the demo reels right on the front page, and look at other voice actors' websites. Look up the famous voice actors and see what they're doing and take from them. It's what I did when I was building my website. I was like, oh, I like that, I'm gonna do that. I like this, or I like that. So yeah,
there was a lot of famous, like Bob Bergen. You go to his website and it's incredibly simple, and it looks like it hasn't been updated in like a couple of years. It's really basic. Some of the clip art is like kind of pixelated.
Yeah.
But you're like, this is like one of the top voice actors in the industry.
Yeah,
So
and he's got a lot going on, so he
Yeah.
can get away with having a couple more tabs or it looking a little fancier.
Mhm.
If you're me, like I'm
you
not
have
gonna
no
bother you.
excuse.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna bother you with like some flashy intro or some weird or like a million paragraphs of text about my life story. You don't care. You just want to know what I can do, what I've done. Exactly. I was born for voice acting. No, I do it.
Yeah.
Here's what I do. Like make it friendly, simple, professional, right? Approachable. Yeah.
But as far as like their relevance, not for getting the work, but for showcasing your work, your past work and or your skills and your relationship that you can build. All the work is going to come through contact, not through people just Googling voice actor and they find your website. Oh, let's contact this guy. That rarely ever happens.
Yeah. It's rarely through what you do. It's through YouTube. It's like, oh, I like this voice actor in this project. Who is it? Click Twitter link or website link or whatever. And different things on the internet are used for different things. Website, it's basically a digital portfolio. Don't treat it like anything else. Twitter, that's where you can advertise the stuff you've been in, build an audience, sort of build professional relationships through being active on social media. And that obviously that's a whole nother conversation about being careful about what you post and what you don't post. And YouTube, that's for if you're a content creator, create. If you're a singer, produce music. If you're a voice actor or an impressionist, produce videos on impressions and all those things, right? Use all the available outlets and utilities and tools you have to your advantage. Know that they serve different things.
Right. Put your name and face and what you can do out to as many places as you can, but streamline it. Really kind of hone in.
Exactly.
Don't post all the exact same stuff on every single, website.
YouTube has a use. SoundCloud has a use. Facebook has a use. Twitter has a use. Like, and
so
don't
forth.
make exactly.
Right. Okay, there was another question that I had. What are your goals in the future? Like, do you have a short-term, mid-term, and long-term goal as far as your career? Because you've been doing this for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, for about 2 years professionally, I've been doing this. Yes, I have short-term goals, long-term goals, and anyone getting into this, get goals. Like, because if a lot of times when I produce demos, I'll ask people, What are you going to do with the demo? What's your short-term goals? Who are you submitting to? And if I hear, oh well, I didn't really think about it that much, then I'm not going to take you as seriously because I'm
Got
like,
a
you
lot of
need to be
Canadians
thinking
come in your studio.
there's that
Thought about it that much.
Oh dear, I haven't really thought about it, eh? It's just like
Oh, sorry
like
about that.
yeah, yeah, have those goals, short term, long term. Short term, I mean continuing to grow, doing more video games. I've gotten some of the biggest opportunities like within the last few months for like huge projects, so that's been cool. I'd like to start doing more series, either anime or prelay. Prelay, for people who don't know what that is, who are listening, that means that's just original animation. They record the audio first, then animate to it.
Right.
Anime is ADR. You dub over the animation. So I want to do more series work. I would like to I'd like to sort of expand to different people. You know, make more connections out here. Long term, I
Also,
would
that was
like
all
to
your
say-
short-term goals.
well, short
Like
Yeah,
how many years in that short term?
in that. Ooh, well, the series I would like to do within this year, right? I'd
Okay.
like to book a series within this year.
Okay.
Let's see, making more connections. Well, I made a lot of connections in 2017. 2018, I would like to execute on those connections. I'd like to get auditions from this studio or this company, and just start getting that. The more consistent inflow of auditions I get, the better. And I'm getting to a place where I have a lot of different sources, which is great.
Good.
Some of my short-term
Germs.
my short-term goals, I don't want to talk about publicly just because it's either a specific person or a secret thing I can't talk about,
Oh,
or
okay.
just
Yeah.
something I'm or something. Obviously,
You've already
some
signed the
goals
contract to keep your mouth shut. You can't say nothing.
Right. And there's a quote from How I Met Your Mother, which is like, sometimes something that needs to be said doesn't need to be heard. Sometimes just writing out a goal or something, or admitting something about yourself, is important. It needs to be said. It needs to be put to paper, but it doesn't need to be shared.
Right.
Sometimes you need to share with people because you need someone to hold you accountable or someone to encourage you. Sometimes you don't, for certain things. So certain short-term girls. Wow, I can't speak.
I mean, if you
better
want to list your
enunciation,
short-term girls, I mean, that's
my
fine.
short-term girls.
You live in
Yeah,
LA. You got some really nice short-term girls.
Oh dear God. Anyway, some of them I'm sort of just keeping to myself or contemplating. Long term, I mean, yikes. I guess I would like to get to a place where I can work a lot from home, where I live is not necessarily a problem in terms of the work I can do, right? If it that would be great. Having that freedom, obviously. I'd love to get to a point where I can do voiceover full time. I don't think I will ever get there, and sometimes I don't think I'll want to get there, just because I like having a steady income. I like having security. So even if I do very, very well, there's, maybe I just don't want to be there. And
right. It is dicey water. It is dicey water.
It's dicey water because you
no
never know what's going to
security.
happen.
Right. Especially if you're non-union and you're working on your own, it all comes down to you, and just because you emailed these people doesn't mean that they're going to come back to you, and it doesn't mean that you'll be able to email the same number, the same type of people next time. It is incredibly dicey, and I do think that is something that a lot of people don't understand. Is almost every single voice actor has other things they also do.
And I'm talking about like the top people. They're like, oh, they do it full time. They do, but they also have another job. Like they just don't talk about it because that's not their main thing.
Right.
And the other thing about my long-term goals is a lot of them, and you'll learn. I mean, people will learn this like with anything. A lot of times, your long-term goals are really tied into personal things, right? I want to get to a place where I can, afford a house, so that I can support a family, right? So that I can live comfortably and give my kids, give my kids like the opportunity to go to college or to pursue this or that. I want like a lot of but what's great is that they're tied up in my work, right? My work needs to get to a place that I can do those things with my money or my time. So yeah, short term, like it's it's continuing what I'm doing, branching out to new places, And then it's series. I would love to be in more series. And then long term, a lot of it's just, personal stuff, where I would like to live, what I'd be able to do with my time and money is kind of what it is. And it's great to write those out for people who are just starting out in voice acting and you're like, oh, I don't know what my short-term or long-term goals or long-term goals are, the things right in the middle. Like, I set time periods. In the next year, what would you like to do? Right? Last year, I set a goal for I would like to book one thing through my agent a month, and I did that. And it's just if you put it out there either on paper or you say it, it gives you something active to do. Write down this next month, this next year, this was one by this time this summer or next summer. That's what I want. 10 years, 5 years. Make it precise, make it specific. It's the same advice I give when I'm directing. The more precise you are with your acting, the more specific you make it, the better it will be, the more it will stand out. And I think the same applies to life. And that's just kind of my mantra.
My thing is my short-term goals are normally within a year, and a lot of those are like reoccurring. Like every year they're still on that list, and I might add like a new thing to it. My suggestion is put like if you have a space like we do, and you have like dedicated towards voiceover, put a sticky note or some kind of permanent thing, or maybe make it your desktop. Have those constant reminders. Your see, even me. What did you do? Short-term goals. And then my 5-year goal is to have, because I live in an apartment, and I gotta say, that is the worst for voiceover, especially if you have people fighting upstairs. Nothing can possibly be worse. My 5-year would be have a house that's in a relatively quiet neighborhood, so I can record regardless of the time. Any time of day. So that's kind of like the 5-year goal. It might be sooner than 5-year, but like at 5-year, maximum. And then 10-year goal is to have an actual studio, to actual production studio. And the reason that I started looking into actually having my own studio for more than just me was I was actually approached 3 times by major companies thinking that my website was for a studio and not just for one talent.
Gotcha.
And it was there was one of them was a 3D animation studio in India that was doing the Star Wars Lego series.
Wow.
And, yes, and they had contacted me, wanting to know, if I was willing to sign a contract with them and work with them and do the proofreading on the scripts and the editing and the dubbing and the casting and all the Foley work and all this kind of stuff. And I had to, at first I thought they were just wanting me, and then after reading out, I had to be honest. There's no way I could lie about this. I was like, I'm just one talent. I'm just one voice actor. I can't, do this. I'd be happy to audition, but as far as like an actual production company, I can't do this for you. And they totally understood. They appreciated my honesty. And then they, that was it. But then that happened again 2 more times for major studio projects. And I was like, I got to get a piece of this pie. I got to do something. Yep. Someone is finding me somehow. And I've done directing, I've done writing, I've done editing, I've done acting, improv, and all this kind of stuff. And I like the fullness of the industry. I like having, being involved in every little thing. Not like to the point where I'm like over directing or micromanaging, but to the point that everything's fun to me. And so that's always been one of my goals, to have a major studio in Austin that, can actually do dubbing. Now, I guess another one of my midterm, short-term goals is actually to have... I'm currently finishing editing for a fan dub, which I'm actually going to be paying the actors. That's one of my things is I'm not going to hire anybody for free anymore. As a voice actor, I'm against that now. And so, finishing the editing and I'm rewriting the script. And then I have one original product or one original project that I'm actually working with some animators right now, and they're going to send me a demo of what they kind of work because I did the storyboard and we had a rough voiceover and all this kind of stuff. So they're going to send me the animation, and if we like it, we're signed contracts, and then I'll be doing the casting, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's kind of like short to mid. It's gonna be relatively soon. So a lot of my stuff is more in the production, not just solo.
Yeah. And actually, those are some of my both short-term and long-term goals, because I do production as well, not only on demo reels, but I've done some voice directing. I've done some audio contract work for indie video game companies and stuff. So I have a lot of those same goals as well. And then one last thing I'll add, and you sort of touched on it, being open to adjusting your goals or changing your goals is very, very important, which I think, like, it's important to constantly either reflect or write down or say out loud what your goals are, so that you give them room to change and to grow and evolve to something else. Because you never know. You never want to lock yourself down into one thing.
Right.
And so you're like, I will only do this. I can't do this. Because it'll lock you down in your career as well.
And you're putting
like,
blinders
allow
on
yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like when I came out, I was like, I'm going to be cast as like the young protagonist and all these things. And I got cast as giants and ogres and deeper voiced kind of like commanders and generals and stuff. I was like, okay. And I rolled with it because it happened, and just being open to the fact that, you know, life is going to happen, unexpected things are going to happen, and you're going to have to just roll with them and adjust your plans accordingly, no matter what. And yeah, and also one more thing, it's great to have your foot in another area of the arts, because if you're only doing one thing, you're limiting how much you can learn. You can learn so much through painting, through being a director, through being a musician. It's all cross-sectional, and you sort of learn new things by doing different things. So it's great. So I always encourage people who like, I am just an actor. I'm just this. I'm like, don't be a just. Be that
Jack
may be
of
your
all
primary
trades.
thing. Yeah, exactly. I will say that don't spread yourself too thin. If you are, I do everything well, but nothing great, that's not good. Because there's plenty of those people I see online, I see in real life, and those people aren't really going anywhere.
Right. They're just
you need to
whoring
know
themselves out in the industry.
Exactly. And whether or not they enjoy all those things or not, they need to understand, well, what's the one thing that you are the best at, or that you're going to dedicate the most time to. For me, I'm an actor first. I love directing. I love writing. But I know my foot is in the acting.
You're writing
and I'm
and
not
directing
going to
from an actor's perspective.
Exactly.
You know,
and I'm
you're
not going to
looking at
let
it from the actor's point of view, but you're over here.
Yes, and I'm not going to let my acting, like just the business side and the acting itself, suffer because I want to do other things, right? Don't let other things be a distraction, but have something else that gives you something else to learn from. Yeah.
Right. I also say have realistic goals.
Yes, have very realistic goals.
I think that bums out a lot of people, is setting the bar way too high. Like when I, you know, my goal was, of course, to be, you know, the main character in a cartoon and big, you know, video game voice, and, you know, be on Comedy Central, and, you know, be a big action star and stuff like that. But then, you know, and it kept bumming me out that none of this was happening. How is that possible? Because I'm so great. But then I set realistic goals, and so my goal I want to do a voice in a video game, not specific. When, where, how, to what level, and what character, how significant. Put it there. You know, I want to be in a commercial. Okay. I want to do, you know, I want to perform for this number of people. Doesn't have to be filmed. Doesn't have to be all this kind of stuff. And slowly but surely, I'll actually hit those. I'll actually, you know, hit them because they're more reachable. They're accomplishments. They're still accomplishments, but they're not, you know, unreachable for like many, many years. They're really cut down. They're very basic. I mean, exactly.
You
know, I did Deadly Tower of Monsters, which was sold on PlayStation 4 and Steam. And I that was not something that I had, you know, ever expected or planned on ever being in or being a part of. And, you know, I was actually a way more significant and relevant character in it than I thought I was. And it was a pleasant surprise. And I wasn't bumming myself out by, you know, that's what I'm going to be. It was just like, oh, that happened. Cool.
Yeah, and that's the two things you said are really important. The first, setting realistic goals takes knowing who you are, right? Knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. If you're an athlete, you need to know your strengths and play to them, and know your weaknesses and not. So if you're Steph Curry, you're not going to be like, I'm going to be the best dunker in the NBA. That's not who you are, right? Because there are people taller, bigger, stronger than you. You're not going to do that, but you can shoot the three-point bombs all day, right? So focus on that. Set goals that not only you know you can achieve, but challenge yourself, right? Sometimes you do need to set a lofty goal, but you know it's something you can work towards. You see the path. It's a hard path, right? Know when you need to add extra weight to the barbell, but know when you're ready to do that, why you're ready to do it. And then the other thing you said is,
don't put the max weight on the barbell immediately.
Exactly.
Start out
don't
with
be that
just
guy.
the barbell.
Don't be that idiot who's just like, all right, I got this, and just like, has no idea what he's doing. Yeah. And then also understand that most of our line of work is serendipitous, right? A lot of the things we get it's the audition we sent in that we're like, I'm not getting that, or I didn't care for that, or it's someone out of nowhere, like getting you an opportunity. Like I had an agent of mine, they were like, hey, you have an audition for this game at this time, go there in person. And I hadn't even auditioned. They just submitted me. I was like, great. I went there and I look around and I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. This must be a big deal. I get the sides and I'm like, oh, this is for Nintendo? Okay. So, and I was like, this is crazy. And so knowing that a lot of the times it's just a matter of chance and timing, right? And knowing that only so much is in your control. Work on the things that are in your control, work on, right? Challenge yourself, set the bar a little higher if you know you can jump up and grab it. And then understand that happy surprises are going to happen.
Expect hardship and stress, but set yourself up for pleasant surprise rather than guaranteed disappointment.
Yes, exactly. Wow, that's really good. I want that on a t-shirt.
It's going on a t-shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going on a t-shirt. All right. I think this is probably a good place to stop. This was an absolutely really good interview. Thank you. All of your information is going to be down in the description below.
Awesome.
Is there anything like other than like your Facebook and your website and your YouTube channels, or any other thing that you might want people to go check out or anything?
Yeah. Sure, yeah. I'm in a video game called Shadowverse by Psy Games. You can download it on Steam, Android, and iOS. I play the hero Perseus and a couple other characters. I'm in a couple of different shows you can check out. I'm in a show called Ultra Nova on AFMAU's YouTube channel. I'm in Glenwood Daycare on Aviator Gaming. And yeah, if you're interested in anything else I do, you can check it out below. And thank you so much for having me on. This was a ton of fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Leave any questions down below. And until next time, peace.